Hey, hello, and welcome to the OnStage Colorado podcast. I'm Alex Miller, here once again with arts reporter Tony Tresca. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Alex. It is an exciting time to be here talking with you. Since it's September, we have officially hit the start of theater seasons. So there's a ton of new shows opening all around the state that are coming out that are here this fall that we're going to talk about. Some coming soon, but yeah, it's an exciting time to be talking theater.
All right, well, so what's our main topic this week, Tony?
Our main topic this week is actually not fall theater. If you want to get caught up on all of the exciting fall theater options that are happening around Colorado, I strongly recommend you go back to our August 20th podcast episode in which Alex and I ran down the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening. So we're not going to be talking about that. Instead, we're going to be talking about cheap theater. And trying to help connect our listeners with the best deals to see theater on the cheap around the state.
Yeah, it's a great topic and one that I think interests just about anyone. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, we'll look at some of the shows that we've seen that we're going to see, and other things coming up. And later, we'll do our Colorado headliners, our weekly top 10 roundup of shows that we think are of particular interest. And also I want to note that in addition to our last podcast episode being our 100th, this week marks the 6th year of OnStage Colorado in general of this website. So go us.
Yeah, it's a huge accomplishment. In addition to the 100 podcast episodes that OnStage Colorado has done, we've also published nearly 700 reviews and about 500 or so news and feature pieces and thousands upon thousands of calendar listings. There's so many calendar entries.
Yep, I know like 6th anniversary isn't quite as titillating as 5th or 10th or something like that, but still, every passing year, it's still, it's fun to just see where things have been going, how things have grown and changed and stuff like that. So, and also in addition to all the other stuff going on, we launched our first awards program last January, the Oscars, and they'll be back bigger and better in early 2025.
Indeed. So if you've been waiting on pens and needles for our thoughts on what's hot, you're going to have to wait till January.
Yep. So this weekend, I think we were both a little on the quiet side, but we did both see the opening show for the Arvada Center this weekend. And this was Waitress, the musical. And I have to say that artistic director Lynn Collins, who directed this one, kind of hit it out of the park in what was damn near flawless production. I was really kind of blown away by it. What did you think, Tony?
Yeah, this was my first time seeing Waitress on stage. I think I'd mentioned on the podcast I had seen a recorded version of this film before, the filmed version from Broadway, but it does make a difference to see it on stage and really be able to connect with it. It really was, like you said, a pretty flawless production, top to bottom. The choreography was sensational. Brian Malgrave's set design was stunning. Everything from the actual diner to this bathroom that rolls on and off as needed to a fully functioning doctor's office, it seemed. There are just all these really lavish set designs, and then the performances were pretty uniformly strong, I would say.
Yeah, from top to bottom, from all the folks in the ensemble to, there's several main characters, but there's also, there's a lot of different stories going on, and all of those actors just brought it in terms of really developing their own character and kind of building a community on stage right in front of us there with this diner and all the travails that go on there.
Absolutely. Particular shout outs definitely deserve to go to Antoinette Swartz, who played the titular waitress, Jenna. She was absolutely amazing. She has an incredible voice, and she just really nailed the emotional beats. And it's a total transformation from the last time that we saw her on stage. Just earlier in August, that Anne was actually featured in Hedwig and the Angry Inch as the drag king performer opposite Hedwig, which I was shocked to learn about. I actually didn't make that connection until I was talking with Julia Toby in the lobby afterwards.
Yeah, and she was great in Urinetown at Town Hall last year as well. Really, really impressive. And some other ones. There's definitely some folks we've seen before, like Jenna Mulrays, who played Dawn, one of the waitresses. She was fantastic. She's got this really great ditzy energy. Marco Alberto Robinson, who played the goofy doctor, who We've seen on stage in a lot of places. He's done stuff at the Denver Center, like the 39 Steps I saw him in. He's been in Colorado Shakespeare shows, and all kinds of stuff. And also a big shout out to Bryce Baxter, who played the character of Ogie, who was the love interest of one of Jenna Mulray's character, and he was just hilarious. He had this one number that he just brought the house down. They did the thing with all the menus. I don't know, how would you describe that scene, Tony?
It's like the old classic Broadway choreography with the feathers and the circle around the titular person. Well, they do that with his character Ogie, except instead of feathers, since they're at a diner setting, they use all these menus to kind of create that aesthetic around him. You're absolutely right. That scene kind of brought the house down on opening night when I was in attendance. That moment was the biggest applause moment of the night, followed closely by the appearance of the little kid Lulu at the end of the show. The audience lost their mind for that kid.
Yeah, and
for good reason. Very cute.
Yeah, very cute. And I don't think we were expecting it, because it's a very, very small part. It comes at the very, very end of the show. But it's really impactful to see that she's moved on with her life after all the action of 5 years prior. So Taylor Cyrus was the choreographer, did a great job with that fan menu scene and everything else. Also wanted to shout out Ariel Crosby, who's new to Colorado stages. She played the third waitress Becky, and she was tremendous. Great big voice, really great stage presence. She was the kind of the wisecracking sort of, nobody would remember this, certainly not you, Tony, but there was an old show called Alice that was set in a diner where she was always giving it to the guy who owned the diner, and she was very much kind of like that. And then she winds up having kind of a fling with the guy that's always telling her he's going to fire her. Anyway, all kinds of good stuff going on in Waitress. Definitely I recommend that one pretty highly.
Totally. Only small quibble that I had with it is, as somebody who formerly lived in the South, some of the Southern accents were a little bit exaggerated. They felt a little bit charactery, but I guess that's just because I had that personal connection to it. I was like able to pinpoint a couple of those exaggerated accents.
Right. Yeah, I'm not as sensitive to that as I am to like East Coast accents, but I definitely trust you on that. Speaking of accents, one of the things I didn't mention about Upstart Crow's production of The Dover Road, which was set in England. I was really interested to see that they ditched the whole accent thing, and I actually think it was a good choice. And a lot of times, I think it's a good choice to if you think about like how much the accents really add. Since in Waitress, like we don't really know where that diner is located per se, so I don't think anybody would have noticed if they didn't do any kind of accent. But that's what it was.
I think you're totally right, and because I think it's an interesting choice. Maybe just considering how essential the accent is to the actual execution and performance of the piece. Because I think I'm with you. I don't know if it totally matters that we hear the accent itself.
Yep. Some shows definitely. This one, maybe not. But anyway, it was, like you said, a small quibble on a really, really strong show. So you had this knee-deep in writing fall arts reviews thing.
Oh, yeah. And that was it. I only saw Waitress this week because I don't know about you, Alex, but I have been absolutely knee-deep in writing full art previews for Boulder Weekly, Denver Westward. So I kind of had to pull back on attending shows. But since all those pieces are due at various points this week, pray for me. I've got an action-packed weekend lined up, including Irma Bomback over at the DCPA's Garner Galleria, The Android's New Soul at the Bug, POTUS at Curious, and a screening of Casa Bonita's Mi Amor, which is the documentary about the Casa Bonita reopening that's pending, and then maybe one or two other shows that I'm going to try to fit in there. So busy weekend.
Yeah, I've got a bunch coming up as well. So I'd be curious to see that the Casa Bonita film, because all the hoopla about it, and I love South Park and all the stuff that those guys have done, but I really don't care very much about Casa Bonita. I was there a long time ago with one of my sons, and it was the food was awful, as it was kind of legendary awful. But I didn't really know that about it when I went. It was and I was like, oh my god, what is the deal with this place? This food is like, it was literally like puddles of glurp that they just kind of flung onto a tray that tasted vaguely taco-y. So yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wow, what a description. Yeah, they're certainly not going to put that blurb on their menu or anything. They're not going to quote you on that, I don't think. But
Yeah,
I have heard from people who have been, and I should say I have not attended since the reopening. I have not been able to get a ticket. I guess I didn't know the right people or whatnot.
yeah,
But I have heard from folks who have attended that the food is slightly better, but it's also much more expensive now. So double-edged
yeah,
sword.
yeah. Well, everything's more expensive nowadays. So um, anyway, so yeah, you'll be making up for lost time, as will I. A random note from last week: we were pondering the difference between lunch and luncheon, or maybe it was more me. I was just I get fixated on these things, but
I love that you looked this up.
yeah, I'm a word guy, so yeah, I definitely looked it up. And so, if you're ever wondering why the hell is something called a luncheon and others are called lunch, this was the answer I found online. Luncheon is a more formal term for lunch, which I guess I kind of knew, but it's often
Mhm.
used to describe a meal that's part of a meeting or an event. So you might say there's going to be a luncheon at the book club or a corporate event, fundraiser. Luncheons can also be lavish meals and might include watercress sandwiches and fruit salad. Well, that's really specific. Luncheon. But this is the etymology is what really I'm always interested in. So the word luncheon, it says, may have originated from the Old English word nuncheon, which means noon drink. So I think they were all day drinkers back then because it wasn't safe to drink the water, so everybody was plowed all the time. But it also says it may have been influenced by the German word Lunchentag, which originally meant a thick piece or a hunk. So the shortened form lunch came into use in the 19th century and was originally considered vulgar, but occasionally became the more common term, and luncheon got relegated to just more formal occasions.
I like the idea that lunch is like a vulgar term. It started as that's a fun thing to think about in the evolution. Ugh, you're
Yeah,
so base and classless for using the word lunch.
yeah. I don't love the word lunch, but we're stuck with it.
I suppose so, unless we can officially get everybody back on board with the term luncheon. But luncheon does kind of feel like one of those words or phrases that you don't really use in like real life conversations. Kind of like in your grocer's freezer. It exists in wordplay space, but nowhere else.
Yeah. No, nobody would say, hey, there's going to be a meeting and a luncheon. You would be like, there's going to be a meeting and they're bringing in Panera. So,
Real, real.
yeah. So, anything in our mailbag? Any new feedback from the site or anything like that, Tony?
So I reached deep into our global mailbag, but I did not grab anything this week. We don't have any new comments or anything, but we did get a new 5-star rating on Spotify, which we really appreciate. But if you do want to get in contact with us, you have a comment, or please feel free to hit us up at info@onstagecolorado.com or shoot us a message on social media. We always love to hear from our listeners. What topics for future episodes, what we got right, what we got wrong, what you want to hear more of. We're always game to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, we did have one comment on the site from my review about that Dover Road show. I think they didn't really think my review was very helpful. So this week we don't have an interview just because Labor Day and schedule conflicts and all that, but we've got several coming up, which we'll tease a little bit later. So yeah, let's just turn to our main topic here about trying to find some deals on tickets to see shows, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. We can. I mean, as you mentioned just a second ago, the cost of everything has kind of gone up just around the board. So in entertainment, that is also very true. Whether it be a play, a concert, or a sporting event, it just costs more to go out. So when we're thinking about a good topic for this week, we just thought it would be interesting to kind of talk about how theater goers in Colorado can save a few bucks while not cutting back on their trips to the theater.
Yeah. It's always interesting to note the way some people, a lot of people don't blanch at shelling out hundreds of dollars for a concert ticket at Red Rocks or whatever, but they might be like $50 for a theater show. There's this kind of disconnect on how people value live performance. So I'm not sure. Why do you think that is?
I think it's an interesting point. Yeah, I wonder if some of it has to kind of do with people comparing a theater ticket to the cost of a movie ticket. Most places you can go to the movies for under $20, and also many movie theaters now, like AMC, Alamo Drafthouse, and Regal, they also offer a movie pass like option. so that people can see unlimited movies for about $18 to $25 per month. So, I mean, that's just really lowering the barrier for entry for films and making it a lot cheaper to go. So I think if you're comparing theater experience to something like a film, it's really hard to make that comparison. And then that doesn't really even take into account the other options for entertainment, like streaming services, video games, or sports, which are all options that definitely drive people away from the theater.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, if you think about if you want a fine dining experience where the restaurant only does 2 seatings a night for 20 people or something, you're going to fork over big bucks. But the drive-through at McDonald's, of course, is a different story. In the same way, a film that's released at thousands of cinemas and it's also streaming can still make a lot of money, $20 at a time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And in that scenario that you've just set up, the local theaters are kind of like the fine dining establishments meant more than they are like the McDonald's. It's a crew of local artists who create something very intimate, live, and special that comes with a myriad of production costs, everything from the sheet of plywood to paying your actors to insurance, building costs, royalty payments. The list literally goes on and on.
Yep. But the reality is people are still going to buy or not buy based on their own personal decisions and finance. And so it's worth thinking about how theaters can address the issue because it's always going to be there. So, I was talking to Rich Crowden at the Aurora Fox recently for an upcoming interview, and he said something like, look, I'd rather have a full house that's a mix of full price, discounted, and maybe even some free seats rather than a half-empty theater where everybody paid full price.
Totally. That was kind of the thesis of our recent talk that you and I gave at the Colorado Theater Coalition about theater marketing, is we were just basically being like, listen, every single seat that you leave open is a missed opportunity, not only monetarily, but also to just get people into the theater, experiencing what you do so that then they come back down the line. So with that in mind, we set out to kind of look at a few ways that you can go see some great live performances here in Colorado without breaking the bank. And first, is kind of a general note. Pretty much all theaters around Colorado offer some kind of subscription program, like a season subscription program. So freelance arts writer Lisa Kennedy recently penned a piece for the Denver Post entitled "Subscribers Are a Lifeline for Local Theater Companies, and Not Just the DCPA." And in this article, Lisa Kennedy discusses metro area deals on season tickets at companies like the Denver Center, Curious Theater, Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, the Catamounts Local Theater Company, and Miners Alley. So you can get some really, really great deals on all of their shows that way. But that does usually entail selecting and paying for your tickets in advance if you go the season ticket route. And we've heard from a number of theaters that this model has just been losing a ton of popularity, including from companies that Lisa Kennedy actually mentions in this list, such as Curious Theater, for one. It's just that subscribers numbers have been declining and making up less and less of the overall budget for theater companies year after year.
Yeah, it's true. And we also hear from patrons that patrons are more likely to book reservations closer to the date they want to go. I think it was Len Matteo at Miners Alley who was telling me, he's seen a lot of that, and he's like, kind of drives them crazy. It makes it tricky for theaters to plan a little bit. So, but I'd also add another good way to learn about discounts or deals is to subscribe to the newsletters of the theaters you like.
Yeah, totally. For instance, Mark Reagan over at Betsy, he sends out some of the best, most personalized emails that I can think of any theater company. And these emails include not only discounts to upcoming Betsy shows, but also other arts organizations and stuff in Boulder. So it really is a good resource to get cheap tickets to performing arts all around. But if you don't want to subscribe to the newsletters or anything like that, let's say maybe you hate getting emails, we've got a couple other options for you that we've rounded up to help you get some good deals on theater tickets.
Yeah. So we'll start with the Denver Center because they really do have the priciest ticket in town, usually with the touring Broadway shows. But, they have these season packages that come in a lot of different configurations. Like, you can buy all 8 of the main Broadway shows coming to town, or a mix of Broadway and theater company shows and that kind of thing. And they also have the option to pay in full or to spread it out over monthly payments, which definitely helps. And there's also different price levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for example, if you chose full Broadway package, that'd be 8 shows And at the price level 2, that total would be $717 in total. So that breaks down to roughly $90 a ticket, which really isn't bad because you're seated in usually some pretty good locations for that level 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the next level, level 3, for the same package is only $536, or about $67 a ticket, which is definitely a pretty good price for a touring Broadway production if you don't mind sitting up a little higher.
Yeah, I mean, and in the Buell, it's really not a problem, particularly with like big shows that come through there. Some other options at the Denver Center are a little bit more flexible, so you can get vouchers to use on any of the theater company shows and save up to a 43%. For their bigger shows like Wicked, Frozen, and the upcoming Hamilton that tour the Buell Theater, the DCPA often partners with this company called Lucky Seats, which is a digital ticketing platform that does ticket lotteries in which people can win 2 tickets for about $30 each. So, I mean, the downside to that one is that it's a lottery, so maybe you don't necessarily know in advance if you're going to get these tickets, but the upside is $30 tickets are pretty good.
Yeah.
They also, at the Denver Center, they have rush ticket options available for all theater company shows and select Broadway and cabaret shows that will get you about 50% off the ticket prices if you are a student, teacher, first responder, senior, and or employee of a Tier 1 SCFD organization. If you're interested in doing this rushing option, the DCPA recommends that you call the box office ahead of time to just confirm that they will have these rush tickets available. And you can find all of this information that we just discussed about these discounts at the DCPA on the Denver Center's website.
Yeah, well, looking at the other side of town over at the Arvada Center, they have similar package deals that can save you between like 15 and 25% on shows, depending on which way you go. But if you want to buy a ticket at the regular price, you can get them for as low as $56, and they go up to $74.
Yeah, and there really isn't a bad seat in the house there, particularly given the high quality of the Arvada Center shows. I mean,
Yeah.
with Waitress, they are hiring almost all union talent to work on that show. So, I mean, it's really not a bad price. And like the DCPA, the Arvada Center has also got rush tickets available for purchase an hour before most shows. And then they also have tickets set aside at every performance called access tickets, which are available for $20 at every show. And then if you are a part of a organization such as the Military Actors Equity Association or the Colorado Theater Guild, to name a few, the Arvada Center also has a bunch of different membership and organizational discounts that you might be eligible for.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's always worth asking to see if you're in that. The first responders are doing pretty well these days with discounts. I saw when I was coming back from the Arvada Center the other day, I saw an oil change place that had pretty big discount for first responders. So yeah,
there you go.
If you're a senior first responder, you can really, really save big, maybe.
We have really rack up those discounts. And I guess the other thing we should note too is both the Denver Center and the Arvada Center, they have deals on groups. So if you're in a group like a book club or you belong to a church or something, you can get really sweet deals on tickets if you buy in bulk like that.
Yep. Yeah. And, there are also industry nights that are for, folks in the theater community. Usually it's a Monday night, because a lot of people are not in another show. I don't know, Tony, do you know how strict they are about can anybody go to industry night, or do they screen you to make sure that you're in the biz?
I have never been screened before at one of these industry nights, but I guess I do work in the industry, so I guess I wouldn't have been screened out. But I think it's pretty open in terms, I think it's just that's what they call their Monday night performances.
Right. Okay. Well, another, thinking about those two big theaters and going to the other end of the spectrum, I was thinking of Buntport Theater. So this is a Denver favorite that does all original work. It's generally off-the-wall comedies. And they've moved to a pay-what-you-can model for tickets. So theoretically, you could go to any of their shows for free if you're really down on your luck. But yeah, you want to pay something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not free for Buntport to do their work. So yeah, you should probably pitch in something if you have a couple of bucks. But I mean, Buntport really is an affordable, accessible way to go out and experience some live entertainment. It's basically free.
Yeah. The other thing I love about Bunport is if you want to drink it, they've got like a little fridge there. You can grab a can of beer or a cup of wine, and it's a serve yourself kind of thing where you just put some cash in a jar. So it's a lot nicer than getting reamed $10 or $15 for a drink at the larger venues. So those are two ends of the spectrum in the Denver metro area. What about your neck of the woods in like the sort of the Boulder Golden region, Tony?
So I guess starting in Golden first, Miners Alley has several tiers of tickets with discounts for seniors over 60 and students. So, for example, at Miners Alley, you could get a Tier 3 ticket to School of Rock, which is running for just a few more weeks over there, for just $30. And even their highest regular price ticket is only $54. And again, over in that new facility there's really not a bad seat. It's super intimate there. So even if you pay like you really just kind of want to pay the $30, that's not going to be a bad seat.
Yeah, great professional theater going on over there in their beautiful new facilities. Another theater to keep in mind, when you mentioned this earlier, Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, and you really should subscribe to the newsletter because Mark Reagan does really wheel out some pretty steep discounts when he's in the mood, which is often. He really just likes to see seats filled.
Yep. So you should sign up to Betsy's email blast, particularly since their season is about to kick off with Enemy of the People on September 26th. So I am sure you will be seeing some good old discounts on that show coming to your inbox very, very soon.
Yep.
Now, before we kind of talk about more specific theaters, I'd just like to note kind of on a general level that if you live near a local or community theater, they're going to have an affordable ticket with your name on. So, I mean, for example, I over in the Lafayette area, the Arts Hub has tickets for their upcoming production of The Prom for anywhere from about $15 to $34. So, I mean, you are really that's much closer to a movie ticket.
Yeah, that's a great deal. Looking up north to Bob Blue Theater in Fort Collins, tickets for their upcoming production of School for Lies, which we're both going to go to, are only $30 on their regular price. And if you're a student, they're only $8, which is a really nice discount. And seniors over 65 are $25. So, but yeah, I was going to point out that seniors aren't always the same. I wouldn't get the same deal at Bob Blue that I do at Miners Alley. Because I'm 60, and sometimes they say you're a senior at 60 or 65, so it varies.
That's interesting. Senior, I guess, has a little bit of flexibility built into the word. There's no agreed upon standard.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the word. I don't know. I guess I don't really feel like a senior, but what can I do?
But are you a fan of the discount?
Yeah. I don't often think to wheel out the senior discount ask. I guess you really do have to be on top of it to make sure you're getting your discounts. But I think the only thing I've ever done was the over 55 menu at IHOP. I think I tried out once where they give you kind of less for a cheaper price, and it was still plenty. But anyway, here nor there.
I guess going back to Boz Blue that you were just talking about, I noticed on their website that like many theaters, they discount their preview nights, these are the performances that happen before the opening night. And so here it says that it is pay what as you will for their preview performance on September 20th.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, if you don't mind seeing what's essentially the last one or two dress rehearsals, you can save a lot, and deals available at most of the players we've already mentioned, including the DCPA, Arvada Center, Miners Alley, Betsy, and others.
True. So, yeah. And so I guess kind of in the interest of not going through every single theater in the state, as much as I'm sure you would just be riveted by that, dear listener, we're just going to highlight a few more specific examples. So over in the Colorado Springs area at the Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, they have a membership program to the museum that exists on the same site. And if you're a museum pass holder, you get 15% discount on its theater tickets there. And then this company also has a subscription program for its theater tickets that gives people 48% off single ticket prices, which is pretty generous.
Yeah, it is. Can't beat almost 50% off. I wonder how they arrived at 48%. Anyway, so Since you mentioned college, another great affordable option is to find a university theater program near you or be a student at one of those universities where the tickets are very cheap, if not free. CU, DU, CSU, and UNC all have excellent programs, and tickets are usually in the $15 to $25 range with discount options.
Yeah, I mean, plus you get to support the next generation of theater artists. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Yeah, well, so that should give theatergoers some ideas. I think the ultimate lesson is that you can indeed save money on theater tickets, but you just got to look a little bit. And if your first choice is too spendy, maybe it can point you to another theater that you haven't been to before. So that's a good result, too.
Mm-hmm. So what did we miss? Are there any other discounts out there around Colorado that you regularly tap into? If you know of a hot discount that we didn't mention, we'd love to hear about it. So please shoot us an email at info@onstagecolorado.com or just shoot us a message at our socials, and we'll be sure to shout those out next week on the podcast so that we can be sure everybody knows about all the good discount options that are available around the state.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do this week's Colorado headliners.
OnStage Colorado is supported by the Aurora Fox Arts Center, celebrating its 40th anniversary September 7th with a season announcement celebration from 6 to 9 p.m. at the theater. Tickets are only $10 and can be purchased at aurorafoxartscenter.org. Support also comes from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, Betsy, whose upcoming season kicks off September 26th with Henrik Ibsen's Enemy of the People, adapted by Mark Reagan. The show runs through October 13th at the Denver Savoy and November 8th through 17th at the Dairy Center in Boulder. Tickets at betc.org. We're also sponsored by the Arvada Center, whose new season is now underway with the musical Waitress playing through October 13th. This delicious musical celebrates the power of friendship and chosen family, following your dreams, and the joy of a perfect pie. Tickets at arvadacenter.org. OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Colorado Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. Their season opens with Dial M for Murder, a new version of the celebrated murder mystery that inspired Alfred Hitchcock's movie masterpiece. Running through October 6th, tickets at fac.coloradocollege.edu. And we also receive support from the Newman Center at the University of Denver, whose Newman Center Presents season starts soon and includes Martha Redbone's show Bone Hill on September 25th. The production is a song cycle inspired by Redbone's life and the women she descends from. Tickets at newmancenterpresents.com.
Okay, we're back, and we're ready to let loose with this week's Colorado headliners as we jam into September. What have you got on your list, Tony?
I have got the highly anticipated regional premiere here in Denver of POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass Are 7 Women Trying to Keep Him Alive, which will be opening this weekend at Curious Theater Company. So this is the highly outrageous farce about the advisors around the President of the United States who, when they realize that he is a complete boob and utterly incapable of doing the job, they've kind of got to step up and save the day. So this is an all-female cast, and it is being directed by Curious Theater Company's artistic director, Jada Suzanne Dixon, and I'm really looking forward to checking this one out. I will be there on its opening night, September 7th. However, since we did just talk deals, in the interest of saving you guys a couple of bucks, if you are interested, they do have 2 previews before their opening, so that is on September 5th and 6th for a slightly cheaper option tickets. And then if you can't make it to one of those or opening, the show will be running through October 13th, so you got plenty of time to check out this show.
My first headliner this week is The Cat in the Hat at Vintage Theater. It's only, I think they've been touring it around a little bit, but it's going to be at the Vintage Theater in Aurora, September 7th and 14th at noon. So always a fun show that I think Bernie Cardell, the artistic director over there, directed, and I'm sure that'll be a fun one for the younger set.
Mm-hmm. My next headliner is a very classic musical, and it's going to be kicking off the season over at Town Hall Art Center. It's Jersey Boys. This is the story about 4 roughnecks from New Jersey who defy the odds and become one of the most successful musical sensations of the century. And although I did mention this is a very popular musical, I should note I've actually never seen it before. This is one I keep missing.
I haven't either. I mean, this is definitely an oldies, remembrance of the Four Seasons, who were huge in their time, but I haven't been to that particular show either. Maybe I'll try and make it up to the town hall production.
Yeah, I feel like I should try to make it out, but I guess like with Jersey Boys and Kinky Boots is another one that I also haven't seen, but I and they get performed all the time, but I never can bring myself to go see it because I just always know if I miss this one, it'll be back next season. Somebody will be doing it.
Yeah.
But this Jersey Boys is being done over at Town Hall Art Center. It's got previews on September 5th, opens September 6th, and runs through October 6th. So you and I have plenty of time to actually go out and see this one, Alex. There's no excuses.
All right. Okay. My next headliner is Run for Your Wife. This is for a Sharkbox Theater production, kind of a newish theater company, and they're going to be doing this at Conifer's Stage Door Theater, September 6th through 21st. So I wasn't familiar with this one. The description says it's a comedy that centers around John Smith, who has two lives, complete with two wives. So a little shades of Boeing in there, farce where you're trying to juggle your wives and mistresses or something like that. And all is well until his rigid schedule of seeing them collapses. And so there's a whole bunch of door slamming and hijinks and that kind of thing. So, I'm actually going to go up to that one and check it out since I haven't seen a Sharkbox Theater production. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Curious to hear your thoughts on that one. Because I'm also not familiar with that play. I am very familiar with my next headliner pick, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. This is Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice's classic rainbow ride through Egypt. It's their outrageous take on the Bible story of Joseph. And this is being done by Performance Now over at Lakewood Cultural Center, September 6th through September 22nd. And what makes this production really interesting is that it's got a massive local cast of over 35 bringing this story to life. So there's a good chance if you are involved in any way in the Denver Metro Theater community, you probably know somebody who is in this production.
Oh, yeah. It is a great musical and definitely been around for a while, but always a good one. I was going to mention this Arthur Miller play, All My Sons, which is not done as often as Death of a Salesman, but it is really a stunning play. It's a really heavy duty, like almost Shakespearean level tragedy about an American family after the war. And Magic Circle Players in Montrose are doing this one September 6th through 21st. So if you happen to be in the Montrose area or keen to drive out to the Western Slope a little bit, it would be a good one to check out.
Yeah, I almost picked this one for one of my headliner picks.
Yeah.
But I was very glad to see that you had it on the list as well, because All My Sons is it's a gutsy pick for a group out in Montrose. Arthur Miller does, like you said, it's not one of his lighter works. Not that he's really known for light stuff, but this one's it's very intense. And so are you going to check this one out? Montrose is kind of a drive.
No, I'm not. Yeah, that is really kind of a trek. You'd almost have to go spend the night there.
Totally. But if you do go and you make the trek to see All My Sons and you feel really stressed out because the play is very stressful, my next headliner pick might be the perfect way for you to unwind after that experience. So it is Modus Music to Restore the Heart with violinist Anthony Salvo at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder on September 7th. It is an immersive music relaxation session in which people are encouraged to bring yoga mats and blankets, because 30 people will be able to lie down and experience the music on the ground in that true kind of relaxation mode. And then 90 people will also be able to sit in the room with them. And the website says it's perfect for relaxation, reflection, and aligning your spirit with your truest intentions. So, if you've got any intentions to align, this is the place for you.
Yeah, I feel a little chill just hearing about it. I want to wheel out my yoga mat and hang out.
I whipped out my NPR voice for that entry.
My next headliner is I Left My Heart, a salute to the music of Tony Bennett. This is going to be the last show of the season for Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater, so it has some Theaters are opening their seasons. The summer guys are closing them down. So that's up in Grand Lake through September 28th. I haven't seen this show. Tony Bennett's an interesting guy. He sort of outlived all the other crooners of his age, and by a lot. I mean, I think he made it into his, well into his 80s, maybe in his 90s, and he kind of had this spurt of additional fame later in his life. And I think he recorded a duet with Lady Gaga, and he was just everywhere. So, but a lot of great old classic songs if you want to check that one out.
Yeah, and that's another one, like Jersey Boys, like Kinky Boots. That I see this show done all the time, but I have not ever seen it. So
Someday
I'm
you shall,
glad
my
to see
son.
that Rocky Mountain Repertory Theater is doing this. So my final headliner pick is sure to evoke nostalgia from anyone who grew up during the 90s. It is Fern Gully Burlesque Parody. It's happening over at Junkyard Social Club in Boulder on September 8th. And it's going to feature oil spills, deforestation, and fairies in an evening of mystical throwbacks featuring some mouth-watering burlesque performed by the Three Silly Smuts while you shop at vendors featuring local art by artists, and you sip on cool drinks that you can get from the bar. They also encourage you to dress up in Fern Gully cosplay if you've got it. I don't have any Fern Gully cosplay on me at the moment, but I did love this movie, which is why I put it on the list. This is a classic. It's got Robin Williams in it as a rapping bat, themes of climate change. And it's just a really inspiring animated movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it, which is weird. With 5 kids, I feel like I've seen any kids movies that came out in the 80s or 90s or the 2010s. But anyway, my next one is my last headliner is the Saturday Night Naughty Show. So I just wanted to call this one out at the Denver Comedy Lounge. They do it every Saturday, and it's a late one at 10 p.m. So I will never see it, probably, Tony, because I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to my bedtime. So that's around the time usually a theater show would be ending. So, but also it's an interesting venue because it is sort of adjacent or part of a sushi bar. So it says here, come sip on some sake, pop some edamame, and laugh your ass off with us every Saturday night, where comedians come to push the boundaries and let their naughty sides shine. So full service dining and cocktails during each show if you really like that late night experience. All right, well, that's the headliners for the week. Also, on the website, new and upcoming reviews on the site, including Waitress at the Ravana, which we were just talking about. I'm almost done with my review, so I'll have that up soon. The aforementioned Dover Road at Upstart Crow. We are both going to be at the Irma Bombeck at Wits End at the Garner Galleria on Wednesday as it opens, so I'll have a review of that. So it's a little bit slow at the end of August as we were kind of awaiting the kickoff of new seasons from a lot of companies. But as I look at September, Tony, wow, a lot of shows that we're planning to review. Guess how many?
I don't know. 5?
No, more than that.
10? 100?
Well,
all of them?
Okay. All right. It's 23, that's a lot.
All right.
And I'm going to be hitting a lot of them because Jen is going to be out of town for a few weeks. So I'm just going to go hog wild and see all kinds of shows. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the OnStage Colorado podcast. Next week on the pod, we're going to have a special guest host, Julia Toby, who's she's the head person at Give 5 Productions that just did the Hedwig and the Angry Inch show. So she's I asked her to come on because she's always very outspoken on the Facebook threads when theater people are talking about things. And so I wanted to ask her, I know you wanted to ask her a little bit about how, it was a pretty big investment that Give 5 did to bring Hedwig to the stage. And also, some of her thoughts about, what theaters might be doing or should be doing in sort of a new, it's a new time. There's things are different. Like we were talking about, those season subscriptions are not what they used to be. There's a lot of different things competing for people's attention. So, are theaters doing the right thing? Are the things they should be doing? So we'll be talking about things like that. And we also have my interview with Rich Crowden to talk about the Aurora Fox's milestone anniversary and their new season. So they're doing a season reveal on the 7th, part of their little gala. And I can also say we have upcoming interviews with Aisha Ahmad Post, who's the executive director of the Newman Center, Jen Zuko from Blue Dime Cabaret, an interview that you did, and Professor Max Schulman from the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, to talk about the upcoming TheaterWorks production he put together that combines 3 plays into one: Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, and Henry V. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him about how he, I think, tried to kind of mush them together into 2.5 hours and make them maybe a little more accessible.
That sounds awesome. I mean, the whole lineup of upcoming things, I'm excited to listen to them all. And if you're excited about these upcoming interviews, podcast conversations, and discussions, the best way to ensure that you don't miss a second of the OnStage Colorado podcast is to subscribe to us wherever you get your audio stuff, and let all the other theater lovers in your life know about us. Be sure to check out all of our news, reviews, and other podcast episodes, as well as our full statewide theater calendar on the website at onstagecolorado.com.
Yep. I feel like we should offer like a tote bag or something if people subscribe, but we don't have any tote bags. We don't have any OnStage Colorado swag yet.
We gotta get some swag, Alex.
I don't know what would be the first swag item we should do, like a shirt or a hat or something like that.
I love a hat, but I'd be curious to hear, listeners, what swag do you want? If you write in, we'll get that swag custom made for you.
Oh no, well, yeah, we're not at the point where we can afford swag right now, but someday we will, because we have a great logo and cool colors. So I'm looking forward to doing a shirt. I'm a little weird because I don't like T-shirts that don't have pockets, because I'm always having to take my glasses off. I like shirts with pockets to me. So those are hard to have a logo or thing put on. So anyway, well, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Tony Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.
Woohoo!